Hello, everyone, and hello, all of our viewers. Meek, I know you like how I did that, but that's just how Superman works. You don't know where he's gonna come from, but boom, here he is, ladies and
Here
gentlemen.
he is.
Saunders, and I am happy to be joined with this Friday, the 13th. Many blessings. With the one and only Miss Tamika Catching. Should I give the whole rundown? Making sure that included that I beat her in a one-on-one game in my mind. But you know what? That's the whole point of the show because we got to dream and aim high and believe in ourselves.
And be real with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you're saying this is not fake sweat, but listen, I had the crazy idea. This is a community conversation. Then let me get out here in the community. I am at the Cleo's Bodega right here on 29th and MLK. I apologize. A little bit further down, across from Center for Leadership Development. And tonight, they're actually, my good friend Nigel Long is hosting Grapevine, where you have a lot of local vendors and families coming. Hey, how y'all doing? See what I'm saying? Right here. So come on down. We're going to be here at about 10 o'clock and continue to always support Cleo's Bodega as it's stood in our community to be a solution for food deserts, and it has definitely served as a staple. So shout out to Brandy Cosby and his whole crew and all the crew inside there. They forced me to say something else. I'm happy to say something. But can I make sure I give a dedication before we start, or I'm not going to be able? I have to let everybody know who's watching that this is the most holy day because my daughter, Epic Victoria Saunders, has turned 7 today. And I wanted everybody to say happy birthday, Epic.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, because she already has thousands of views and aspiring to be an influencer. So Epic, I love you. And I can't wait to grow this mantle so I can pass it to you. All right. So
let me just say this. Epic Victoria Saunders. Is that what you said?
Epic Victoria. Epic now, Victoria Saunders. Epic Elise.
So Epic already, I mean, let's just stop right there because that name in itself, Epic. Victoria, like I don't know about y'all, but I think of like the Queen. Mm-hmm. So you go from Epic to the Queen, and then you said Eloise?
Elise.
Elise.
Yes.
Okay. And then you add on Saunders to the end of that. I mean, so automatically, what I'm saying is, she's already been destined for greatness. I don't know what y'all think, but I'm just gonna put that out there like that.
Absolutely. And so, Epic, you're gonna be watching this later. Daddy be home. We're gonna kick it up. We're gonna do it big this weekend or medium.
Hopefully not at 10 o'clock.
No.
You're gonna be home. She's gonna be in bed by then.
So speak. Might scream somewhere and head on home. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a wonderful panel. I'm excited about this panel. And like I said, I wanted to get outside. I almost want to, if a random person comes by, I'm going to ask them to say something. But we're going to be talking about microaggressions tonight. All right. And we have, again, a dynamic panel to come and speak on the topic. And are we ready to introduce, or Tamika, do we have to make any church announcements or anything like that? Or
now we gonna have some church tonight, but we don't have to make the announcements. I think we just roll right into it, and we, like you said, we got a great panel. Super excited, blessed to know 2 out of the 3. But Dillian, I already told her, I said she's gonna become part of our family as well. So let's start with Dillian. We will start with you, if you don't mind. Just introduce yourself. Tell everybody a little bit about you. And I mean, I could go down the rundown and give them your whole, if you want me to, I can give you the whole bio, but I figure it sounds better when it comes from you. So if you don't mind starting us off.
So hi, everybody. I'm Dillian Ayeni. Thank you so much, Eric and Tamika, for inviting me to this panel. I'm super excited to just really kind of have a family gathering moment with other dope people and talk about a very important conversation that's needed to, we need to keep repeating it until we fix it. And so, but I'm Dillian Ayeni. I work currently at IUPUI within the Kelley School of Business, the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Programming Associate. And so pretty much I work the program to bring support, holistic support, and just like anything that can help our students feel like they belong on the campus and also within the school. IUPUI is a predominantly white campus. The Kelley School of Business is a predominantly white academic school. One of the most, within like the IU system. And so especially we are focused on our students of color, making sure that they know that they belong there, they have a place, they're welcomed, and also making sure that we do everything in our power to make sure they excel. Also working with our LGBTQ plus community, making sure that they feel like they also belong in that space. A lot of times the corporate vibe of a business school can be different from an individual's vibe if they belong in that community. And so just like from having personal conversations, it's hard to fit in sometimes, or it's hard to feel like you belong there, like other people want you there. And so making sure that we create a space to make sure they're there. And then also, of course, for our women, we want to make sure that our women feel empowered in a predominantly male environment in the classrooms, in the hallways, in the entire academic school. I love working with our, one of my biggest passions has been working with our Black and Brown students. I've been at IUPUI for like 6 years with a break when I had a baby. I have a 10-month-old, Zion Oluwatobi Ayeni. He is my heart. So I took a little break at the end, and now I'm back, and I love our IUPUI students. It's been a joy. And actually last night we celebrated our outstanding Black graduates. It was super hype. This was the first graduation we were able to have in 3 years in person. And so the last 3 years been virtual. They were very diligent in making sure that it wasn't, a billion people in the room. So we were able to be safe, but also have a good time and have like, a good, some of their family and friends there to celebrate, and just have them be able to celebrate with each other and be able to walk the stage with each other in person. So it was dope. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. Thank Dillian. We are so blessed, and I'm excited to have you here. Like, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Got
I
two
feel like
more. You feel like what?
I feel like she's ready to spill it and talk about it, man, and really engage. So we got you
Well,
back.
I'm gonna just say this: Epic and Zion. Y'all, Lord willing, one day I will have some kids, and I can't wait to come up with a name. All right, let's go, Brian, and then we'll go be Swift.
Hey, what's going on, family? I'm so glad to be in the place with individuals who I look up to a great deal. Tamika, thank you so much for the invitation. Eric, big brother, not long ago, I was in your space, not too long ago, so it's good to be in your presence. B Swift, we know he's a city legend, so good to be in you all's company. And Dillian, I'm gonna be like you when I grow up. I'm an Indianapolis kid, born and raised on the northeast side of Indianapolis, Jamestown Projects. Indianapolis public schools kid. So went away, found myself, came back and found education. So I've been an educator 20 years. I've served as a substitute teacher, principal, 4 schools in the city, all urban schools, 2 high schools, 2 elementary schools. Most recently served Indianapolis Public School as their district culture and climate coordinator, responsible for SEL, addressing disproportionality with discipline, particularly our Black and Brown children, and then racial equity work. I just accepted a position at Butler University to be assistant professor and Randolph family, and director of their principals program, EBPSP, Group 25. And so really excited to start shaping the minds of those who are going to be leading our children in the coming years. And so Butler is a predominantly white university as well. So really excited about the dean welcoming me in to say, hey, we want you to be a change agent here on the campus, get our more diversity in our leadership programs and our undergrad programs, and just create the conditions where we feel safe, loved, and seen. And so along with that, I'm doing professional development work locally and nationally around SEL and DEI work. So really excited to help principals around the country create the conditions where babies are, again, healthy, well seen, acknowledged, and have the opportunity to be everything they were created to be. So I'm so excited for the conversation today, y'all.
Thank you, Doc. You know, I love it. I appreciate it. And I really, I mean, this man is a great complimenter, right? See, when you said big brother, man, you really made me think I was taller than you.
Oh, no, bro. You know you got it. You got it.
Hey,
You got it.
yeah, I gave him a hug one time, came back, he said, his back said, yeah, his muscles back here too, partner. He was like, but thank you. I appreciate that. Speaking of big brother, man, listen, me and this next panelist, we go back since Crispus Addicts. It's not too many of us Addicts Tigers in the middle school days, and I'm just really proud. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
So I'm B Swift, High 96.3, afternoon jock, also Indiana Pacers and Fevers MC. I don't know, I do a lot, you know, I'm just me, but I'm gonna say I'm very excited for this conversation for a lot of different reasons. When I got the topic, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth, I almost backed out and was like, I don't know. But then like something stuck to me, was like, nah, look into it, see what it is, and look at this as a learning opportunity as well. So, you know, I'm excited because I stuck on with this, and I'm gonna learn as well as, you know, give my input on a lot of different things. So, you know, I'm definitely excited to be here with you all, and I'm glad I didn't, you know, hit the audible move and run towards the back. Like, no, not this and not this.
We ain't gonna let you leave like that anyway. No, we coming back. We coming back.
You talk to everybody on the radio, but you don't want to come talk to me. That's messed up.
Hey man, it be
I'm
different.
gonna call in one day.
I knew if I seen Tamika, she was gonna put me in a headlock for not popping on. So I was like, I'm on it. Don't worry about it.
Have you ever seen me put anybody in a headlock?
No, you don't do that
Be
stuff.
careful how you answer that.
So, all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from our panelists, and we encourage you to do pretty much the same. Introduce yourself right here on the chat. Come on in, share your questions, your thoughts, your comments, and your input. That's the whole point, that we're all just connecting together. Yes, we started this in the middle of the COVID, or the beginning of the COVID. Man, I sound old. Yeah, we started this in the middle of the COVID, the beginning. But here we are. And so we're mixing it up, and I can't wait to see where this goes. So again, share to your networks right by now. And that way we can continue to get this conversation, because we know you mad out there. We know y'all been ready to talk about this. We know you've been ready to let it out. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off with the definition. Is that all right? Okay. So let's go by the simple definition, because if we want to keep it 100, and that's what we're here to do. Let's just say about, let's say 1998, maybe 1999, when we started hearing this word, first of all, diversity, coin more. We started looking for it. I think, you know, reality television started to come about, and we started viewing the world differently. And diversity has always been around, but would you agree that it kind of got coined right around in 2000, when actually we were naive enough to believe that there wasn't even going to be a world after 1999. We didn't know how it was going to happen, but 2000 rolled around and said, oh, shucks, we got a whole new world and time frame that we have to plan for. And so this word diversity comes, and I graduated from IU and went to Cathedral, where I saw, but at IU, I got a job there, and it was just diversity. Notice I'm just saying diversity. Is that right, De Leon? All right, just diversity. And then as we grew, it became diversity and inclusion. And then as we grew some more, now we got diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now we got justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. But in those, you hear certain terminology to kind of guide us what these things mean. And the major one is microaggressions. All right, I just want to kind of contextualize that first before I get this definition. Very simple. A microaggression, let's define it. It's a statement, action, or incident regarded as instance or indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. Okay, now that's just a definition, but again, that can definitely be broadened because as we again throwing in that word equity, we're throwing in equality, and so again that's a whole other debate there. But we're staying on the term microaggressions, guys. How do you feel about that definition in a simple form, and how can you add on to it? Oh, okay, ladies first.
No. I think,
Oh,
I mean, let me set the stage a little bit.
yeah.
This is a conversation. So nobody needs to be called on. It really is about coming together and talking about it. So I mean, DeLeon, you came off. If you would like to start, we're not gonna put the ladies on the spot. But DeLeon, if you would like to start, feel free.
Yeah, so I was actually gonna ask, so Eric, can you like repeat the definition one more time? I was like low-key about to like find it, but can you like repeat it one more time?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. A statement, action, or incident regarded as instance or indirect, subtle or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group such as a racial or ethnic minority.
Yeah, so I mean, just overall, like I agree that like that is like what a microaggression is. And I would say like microaggression, like the term can be so overly complex sometimes and honest. And so be swift. So that was my reason why I wasn't too geeked to like do this conversation at first, because I was like, I'm not a researcher, a professor on microaggressions. I've just been working with Black and Brown students for the past like 7 years. And our daily conversations is what happens in their everyday lives, what happens in the classroom, what happens, you know, when they're on a predominantly white campus. And so I'm like, I probably don't know all the right terms, but I sure do know what it looked like. And it is, you know, definitely when it happened, it's, I guess like what I would add to it, it can be, you know, I think you did mention that like it can be unintentional, but it can be, I guess like off guard. It can catch somebody off guard when the person is coming from and the person that is directed to. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've seen is like those that I guess, you know, that would do a microaggression towards someone, a lot of times like they have no clue that of how it's intended. It's something that pretty much makes someone that could be marginalized, makes them feel marginalized. It makes someone feel, so that was probably what I would add to it. Like it's something that can make someone feel like the other. It can make someone feel like I don't belong in this space, whether it's something that's said, whether it's like something on a poster. And I walk in a room and I see a poster that's like either like indirectly attacking, you know, my community or saying, you know, like, I don't know, whatever it is, like it could be a word or a phrase, something that says like, you know, I probably don't belong here. Or probably people in here probably don't really want to talk to me or probably really don't want to, you know, see me. Or even if it can even be the absence of something, the absence of something being intentional to make you feel like you belong. I've like seen or I've learned kind of that can be like a form of microaggressions when like, you know, that you have a population of, I would say like Black or brown people, and you do nothing to make them feel like their culture is welcome. You do nothing to make sure that they know that this is their space too, especially when you know that they already feel like they don't belong. So if you don't do anything intentional to make them feel welcome, then like your, you know, inaction, like low-key could be a microaggression sometimes. So I'll just say that it matters how it makes someone feel.
I love it. I'll add to that. Eric, I appreciate you kind of running down some of the evolution, right? Early on, we started to see a lot of the terminology become more common to us because you have to like name it, right? Like it's been happening to us for most of us, since we've been on the planet. People have been talking crazy outside of their mouth and we didn't really know what to call it, you know? So I appreciate this elevated sense of awareness. It's like, okay, wait a minute. What you just said harmed me verbally. you know, and so now, and what I'm learning in the education space particularly is what it's doing for a lot of individuals is making them to begin be thoughtful about what they are saying, right? Because there are words and phrases that people have been using for years that if we didn't speak up and say, you know what you just said offended me, then those words just continue to happen. That type of language that's hurtful, that's derogatory, that's stereotypical, it just continues. And then it becomes norm even in certain communities. Like in some school systems, teachers been calling kids crazy words, you know, thug, I mean, all type of crazy stuff for years. But now this sense of awareness. So I just appreciate this conversation. And I know hopefully we'll get real deep in its impact too, right? Because as I think about microaggression, I'm thinking about impact versus intent, right? So what was my intent when I used this word or statement, but what was the impact of it, right? And so I'll just add that for now, let everybody else speak, but I'm excited about the combo.
I think for me, that definition, when I first read it, it made me realize something. And it goes back to what you just said, Brian. Like, I didn't realize some of the words I've used personally. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I said that and that false. Ooh, I'm okay. Now, you know what I mean? So just reading that definition opened up a book for me and made me look at some things in the past that said to me last week, a couple weeks ago, not really knowing other than you just said something that you ain't supposed to say to me. You know what I mean? Oh, it's a term for that. Okay, I don't gotta put my hands and act crazy with you. I'm a chill, but you shouldn't say these type of things. And like you said, I'm glad we're able to have conversations because these are terms that some of us don't understand or don't know. And when it's used against us, we react in a certain way, you know what I mean? Instead of probably being like, yo, you know, this ain't what you should say, or even I should say to a person that's, you know, of a different race. So yeah, I'm definitely, you know, that definition meant a lot.
And I'm really grateful for everybody's input, and I'm channeling this comment that we got in from Faye. It's just aggression, not microaggression. Who defined that term? I haven't researched that deep. I will, but it got me. I started thinking, but again, it's the subtle part. It's the subtle part, and it's the part in that it's a certain privileges, certain entitlements, to where some people constantly really don't think that it's wrong, because again, your upbringing and this is the right way, and you've not had any connection. So aggressive means I'm doing this very intentionally, very, very intentionally. I think in that regard, correct me if I'm wrong, but the microaggressive just kind of feels like, man, you know, they said it in the most gentle way, but man, it sure stung like a knife. But if we want to get all the way technical, this whole system is microaggressive because you got to look deeper. You have to look deeper. It's not surface, but at the same time, to really get the answers to your questions, we have to look deeper, and that's what we're doing tonight. What's up, Sean? I got it.
Can I say something to that?
So, please do.
So I add something to that real quick. So that both kind of Faye's comment and B-Swift's comment kind of, I think that's why it's important to have this conversation. Like, honestly, if it takes generation after generation to keep having the conversation, because they're microaggressions, they're like little things, they're not overt. And so they're not super obvious to the person that does it, or even to the person that receives it. And like he said, you know, you think back when you see a definition like that, oh snap. So that's probably why I felt some type of way when they said this. I didn't know that it was a word for that. Or like, oh, that's why, you know, I wasn't sure if that was a compliment when they told me that, like, I speak articulate or not. You know, I wasn't sure if that was a compliment, but it felt like a diss. And so it's small. And so literally, like, it's not obvious, but if, you know, somebody called me an N-word, oh, that's real obvious. Like, you was aggressive. If you hit me, you spit on me, you did something, and like, that's aggressive. But it's those microaggressions that I love. Like, there's a YouTube video that talks about microaggressions being mosquito bites. And so it's like, because like you don't realize you got a mosquito bite until you get home after 8 hours a day outside. Then you like, oh snap, now I'm itching and I'm irritated and I didn't know why. Or like, and now I know, now I see it, but it wasn't obvious 8 hours ago. And I'm glad, like, I think that's why it's good to talk about it, because it brings light to when it happens to you. Like you can identify it, you can identify your feelings, and then you can start to figure, okay, what do I do with this feeling? How do I want to respond next time it happens? So now I can identify it when it happens again, and I can speak up maybe. Or if I don't want to speak up, I can handle it internally with somebody else I trust afterwards, like whatever you want to do. But if you can identify it and you don't know what just happened, you just feel weird all day. And then you like, I'm just gonna do something, watch TV to stop thinking about it.
I like how you said the overt, the obvious aspects of it compared to the aspect that are maybe they just leave you feeling certain ways. And I mean, I think when I hear the word microaggression, you know, and I know we're going back and forth in the chat about like it's just aggressiveness or just aggression versus the microaggression, but you're right. I mean, there's been, and I know we can sit here and just have a conversation about time where you've been subtly attacked, and it is kind of like it you don't know how to respond to certain situations. I know for me personally, like I've been in a situation where you almost in a sense to get quieted, like you can't say anything or you can't respond that way because of the environment that you're in and because of maybe who you're representing. And it's no longer just about wanting to stand up for yourself. It's also not being able to, and I know I'm speaking in not directly, kind of indirectly, but you know, you just get put in situations where you are faced with microaggression. And I think it is micro because it's subtle things that happen that you can't speak up, you can't say anything, you are left where it's kind of like, okay, how should I respond to this? The aggression part of me wants to come out and be like, boom, like, and not a hit, but just, you can't say that, you can't do that, that is wrong. Let me tell you why. But then sometimes it's like, okay, well, am I looking at this in the wrong way, I suppose.
Well, it reminds me of the movie The Great Debaters. At the end of that debate that they had with Harvard, he said, if I had to choose between violence, a civil, you should hope that I choose the latter. And it just kind of reminds me of, you know,
Hey, Eric, say that again. Say that again, because you cut out. Instead of remind
when it
you
comes
of.
to violence, the Great Debaters, when it comes to violence or civil disobedience, you should hope that I choose the latter. Meaning you should hope that I choose civil disobedience. You know, I think about, again, the response that athletes made, you know, within the last 5-6 years, with taking knees and just being more vocal. And again, the responses were aggressive. And, you know, one of the main sentiments that came was just shut up and play ball. Stay in your place. You know what I'm saying? Which is very aggressive and microaggressive, all kind of entwined in one. And then the response is, we're not gonna say nothing. We're gonna take a knee. You know, we're gonna stand together. And that's kind of the way of saying, like, I could and should smack you because you're out of pocket. But I'm civil. And so again, that just kind of reminded me of that response
Well,
And people
it's
don't know
hard
how
to.
hard it is. People don't know how hard it is to not turn up and be aggressive when you're in a store and somebody says, "Oh, I like your hair," and get to touching it. Is this how all your hair is? Or, you know, like that. It's used a lot, and it's difficult not to react, like you say, Tamika, because of who we represent sometimes, and you can't say the things you feel like saying because it's tough. That micro, it's tough when people use certain things and say certain things, and you know it's not right, and you can't correct them the way you want to.
Well, and part of it too is you have to figure out ways to do it diligently because two wrongs don't make a right either. And you know, I think it's interesting, and not, I mean, obviously DEI and the spaces that we are all coming into now and representing, and so many different things. Delian, I know you represent a lot of different groups at IUPUI, and so nobody knows until it affects you personally. So everything that's been going on, why we are here today, why we are having this conversation, everything stemmed from George Floyd getting murdered and having a conversation. Or if you put things in the context from 1999, but let's fast forward to 2015, 2016, what happened? And then fast forward to 2021 or 2020, what happened? 2021 was still going on, 2022. I mean, it's just like the wheel that just keep going and the ball that just keep getting bigger and bigger. And we really are trying to figure out, okay, like at what point and I don't want to say does it disappear, because I don't know if it will ever disappear, but at what point do we really address the true issues and start growing and learning and moving forward?
Yeah, that's a profound question you just asked, Tamika. And as I think about it, even post George Floyd, a question I continue to ask myself in the community that I try to stay engaged in is how well are we equipping individuals in our community to respond in the right way, right? Because responding will do a couple of things, right? It may tailor the microaggressive comments, but does it really change the aggressive mindset? Like our sister Andrea said, it's really aggression, right? So can as we learn to respond in, and I guess we could say a civil way, you know, I Great Debater, man, that's one of my favorite movies, Eric. And that comment is probably the most profound every time I watch it, because he's giving them an alternative. He's saying, I could click off on you, or I can handle it in a respectful way. Which one do you want? You want to hope that I do it the respectful way. But do we even have that conversation with young people, like young people, college students? Like, are we equipping our people to respond to microaggressions when they come, so that we bring awareness to those who are using them regularly, is the first question. And then the second question is, what do we feel like as a community, and I may just throw this question out, do we feel like it's our responsibility to change people's minds about the things that they say about us and think about us and feel about us, when we still live in a community that, or in a society that media still portrays Black and brown people as uneducated, violent? You know, I have to smile. I tell all the time, I have to smile a lot. I'm 6'3", 300-pound Black man. I have to smile a whole lot, because when I go into the grocery store, I can see fear come on individuals who are shopping right next to me. So is that my responsibility to soften that, my presence, to make other people feel better? Or I don't know, I'll stop there.
That's the hard part, because like you say, how are we the ones who's supposed to educate them that this is not right, and how are they going to accept it when you say, hey, that's not right, let me tell you the right way? Will they accept that and say, man, don't tell me how to talk to somebody when they say this? That's the hard part, especially with the younger end, because the younger end, this generation, I feel like they do things how they want to do things. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that they won't listen, but they do how they want to do things. And the way we did it might not have worked in their eyes. So why are we still trying to do it the way you did it? Well, let us try our way at this point, because whatever y'all was doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years didn't work. It didn't work. So why I got to keep being nice to these people? Why can't I put my hands on these people when they say certain things to me? Like, and I've heard some of my little homies say that to me, like, bro, I'm not putting up with that. I'm gonna go put my hands on them for saying that to me. Like, I'm not talking, I'm not having conversations. They know better. This has been going on, bro, for 20, 30 years. They know what they're not supposed to say, so they trying to be funny. How do we get that out their brains too?
Well, I think it's conversations like this, but more in depth and more specifically, it's conversations that we have amongst each other, but with our community. You know, it was awesome today. I was at Tease Me, of course, and we did our mindfulness and meditation. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. This month, the month of May, and so we do every Friday from 11 to 12. Just come together and we do yoga. We just chill, like we talk about community. But the interesting thing is, at one point, I opened my eyes, and the diversity in that circle, the way we can. And I don't know these people. I mean, I know my sister's there, but I don't really know the people that are in the circle. And we're sitting there, we meditate and just thinking about what you said, B. Swift. How do we change that? Well, a lot of it is conversation. I think even when we talk about, for us, like when we took a knee, a lot of people didn't understand. But one of the things for me is I'm not going to do something without an action plan behind it. So what did we do coming out of that? We put on, we had a big community event where we had police officers, kids from the community, community leaders, teachers. We had a big group, some professional athletes. We had a big group of people come together, and we had an opportunity to talk about the issues that were affecting our young people. Now, the police officers, and they were not dressed in uniform. So at the end, when they revealed themselves, and I know there's plenty of conversations that are going on like this, but in the end, when they revealed themselves, the interesting thing is the wall that the kids had let down instantly went back up. And so what it becomes is, all right, they put clothes on just like us. We all put clothes on. I put my left foot in before, and then I do my right. I mean, there's different ways we all do, but at the end of the day, trying to find the areas that we can speak about that allow us to get in the door. And then the next part is like having hard conversations where people are willing to like be vulnerable enough to share stories about like when microaggression has affected them, but then also like, let's talk about it and make sure that we're not doing it and that it's not being done to us.
I love how you just mentioned like really it's conversation that's needed. I had two quick points for I'm gonna try to make it quick. For one, I think the conversation, especially with our young folks, is needed because whether you respond or not to microaggressions, there's a lot of gray area. I feel like none of that is black and white. And so the fact, like to the question, should we be responsible for teaching people what to do, what to think, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I'm all like, in certain situations, it probably doesn't have to be a responsibility. Like Dr. Brian just mentioned, like him being in a grocery store with his stature, his height, him being a Black man, probably not your responsibility to smile every time you see somebody that's fearful. But then I'm like, but in another context, maybe if you're sitting with a friend and they say something ignorant, and then like, is it your responsibility to respond and teach them? Then I say it could be, yes, it could be your responsibility. Now, if you choose not to pick that up, that's okay. But if you choose to take up that responsibility, then I think it's a blessing that you did. In a lot of spaces, I truly feel that, and I know that's like a big like divide a lot of times in our Black community, like, should you teach them or should you not? I think education is very important. So probably to those, I don't know, prior to those, they ain't trying to listen. I don't know, probably like everybody who participated in January 6th, probably not. But then like if you sit in a classroom or if you just sitting with, so for instance, we literally had this conversation with some students, and there were a number of white students like between ages 18 and 20 where they were asking questions to some Black students, and they were like, I don't hear about this. I'm from, a small town in Indiana. I've never went to school with a Black person. My class is like, 45 people, and they have one stoplight in their town, probably no Walmart, and like from where a lot of people come from, like a lot of people say, will say that, yeah, this been going on for years, like y'all should get it. A lot of them don't, because they're not taught Black history in classes. It's like so frowned upon to talk about anything like in certain cities and certain classes. So like, no, they don't know. They have no clue. And also the things that their parents teach them, and like the things that they've grown up to hear that's normal. And then they come to, you know, a diverse city and they're around other folks, like they don't know how you feel. They've never spoken to you, and you've probably never told them your perspective. So let them have the opportunity to learn. I think that's very important to probably teach, but it's probably not in every situation.
I agree. And you know, at some point in time, and we have science for a reason. We have analysis and data for a reason. And right now, I think we're right here in this middle where we're also hearing a lot more about conversations as it pertains to IQ versus EQ. We're starting to hear more about what's that, social emotional learning. So again, we're digging deeper into this emotional side that has not been fully considered in the forefront. Again, pull yourself by your own bootstraps, stick in there, man up. You know, all these kind of aggressive terms. But again, we're also living in a society where, you know, what is really supporting the structure of our American society, our culture, our climate? What is it integral? And that's something I always come back to, just so people can be mindful. Everybody seems to have the answer, you know, and from a judgmental sense, you know, and it's so surface sometimes that, again, like you said, you don't remember that Sarah or John from this county has only met Black people through the NBA or a basketball game or a football game or a rap, you know, or you know, you only met this Hispanic person through, you know, these limited views. And so, again, I've had it happen to me since high school. And so, again, like I said, there has to be some grace. And I think that's the beauty of it, that we, especially those who feel like, you know, who have been marginalized and have experienced microaggression, you're in the position of grace, as we discussed earlier. And I think that's important to hold on to, because I wrote it down, doctor. And I wrote it down, man, because I was like, are we, this is the freedom that we attain, or that we're seeking to get for, that we strive for. Are we ready for the privilege that you can possibly be blinded by?
That's heavy, man. That's heavy. And y'all blowing my mind. I mean,
I've been thinking about that.
think about this, to B Swift's point too. I think so disproportionately across our country, Black and brown babies more suspended, expelled than most. Our boys, our Black boys particularly. And I think about his response to what the little brothers have said to him about, why can't I just smack them? I really believe many of our young people are suspended as a result of a microaggression that they didn't know how to respond to, right? So I think we have and to Tamika's point earlier, we have a responsibility at least to educate our own to how they, particularly our babies, how to respond in a proactive way, because it's not happening. I'll just be honest, I've been educated 20 years. I had not heard the word microaggression until George Floyd, right? And I put the definition in 1970, it was coined in Harvard. So from 1970 until, how is it that it hasn't made it into a constant conversation in schools, in a way that that doesn't inform you, but it also educates you on how to identify it, how to call it out, how to hold each other accountable. To DeLeon's point earlier, is if your colleague is talking and you notice that there is microaggressive language, to call it out, you know what I'm saying? So I think we do have a responsibility, but now we got to create a plan, right? So what are next steps? What are the conversations we have to have? When are the conversations that we have them? And then what are the action steps that we call out to our community to actually put into place? I feel like are steps that we really got to prioritize.
And I agree. I mean, y'all are both now on the college level. Eric, is the high school level, middle school, high school. It has to start with the babies. Because by the time they get to junior high, their brain has already been formed to think one way. Then by the time they get to high school, it starts to transition. And then by the time they go to college, away from their parents and away from all of that. But I mean, I watch my little nephews, and the thing that I see a lot is I see these. This has become the way to communicate. And so they don't know how to deal with anything. I mean, think about the number of even suicide rates that have gone up because you can now use this phone to attack somebody without you don't have to disclose your name. You don't have to disclose any of that. You can attack somebody just on this. It used to be like, oh, like, something happened in a school, like it stays within your little group, or it stays within your school. But now it's like, that's going global. And so I really think it is about having smaller conversations in our communities. And I use Tarkington Park as the community right now that I am like locked in and ready to do whatever it takes to get these babies out of there, and not in a bad way, but I want them to succeed. And so we will have conversations, we will have speakers, we will have opportunities, like for these kids to learn and grow and learn how to deal with just adversity is going to affect them to whatever capacity. It might even be the microaggression that we're talking about, but think about it. We all have stuff happen in our personal lives that affect us one way or another, that in tune form, like when we walk in a room, like, Brian, you might have something go on. You go into a grocery store and in one moment you don't smile because you're thinking about something else. Somebody looks at you as a target or looks at you because you're big, because you're black, because, oh my gosh, like intimidation factor. I know I do too. Especially when I walk in a store, but most people know who I am because of basketball. But what if I didn't have that? Who would I be like? How would people respond to me when I play overseas? The response I get from overseas, because people don't know me, because I am in an unfamiliar territory. I don't look like them. I don't speak the language that they speak. You automatically get caught into that. So we have to start teaching our young people, and it's not just black and brown, it's all. So like the microaggression affects all people, but we're talking specific around black and brown because that's the majority of the target that we've seen as of late.
And it's interesting because I think people see the word micro, that they think that it's a small issue when it's really just meaning, because again, we're talking about how I respond to this person, maybe in conversation, this, that, another, but let's be also mindful that this person also who might have these microaggressions, they can be a decision maker. They can be a judge. They can be a lawyer. They can be the prosecutor, the teacher and the things like, so again, this is directly controlling equity into us, or standing in a barrier for equity. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the expert. I just try to read a couple books here now and again, listen to some reports. So y'all, let me hush.
No, I completely agree. I think a lot of times people be like, it's not, especially the fact that you say, we need to start with the babies. And I know some people are like, I don't want to kind of keep them innocent. I don't want to talk to them about so young. They're fine. They'll be okay, or they don't need to know about it now. But I don't think people realize how empowering it is to prepare your child, to prepare like a young person to able to respond in a situation like that where they feel uncomfortable and they don't have to just accept it. And so, because I see the way students in college now, how they respond to microaggressions, it's either I'm gonna pop off because I don't know what to do. And so I'm gonna give you the same energy I feel right now because I don't know what else to do. Or like you said earlier, Tamika, I'm gonna go silent. And I'm gonna just kind of close myself off. And that makes them feel powerless. Like you feel like I have no control in the situation. I have no control over what this person said to me. how they feel about me or how anyone that looks like them probably feels about me. And so if we prepare them and train them early, like if you hear something and it makes you feel this way, then you can respond like this. You can ask this question. You can respond with an affirmation about yourself. If they say this, you're this, you say, no, actually, I'm that. And you're training them to take control of the situation. And then that'll give them power in any uncomfortable situation they might have. And so I think that's what people feel like that's not going to do anything. I'm like, no, when you talk about these and you are intentional to prepare them to respond and know that like you have space, you belong, you can say something, you don't have to be quiet, or you don't have to kind of blow things up. You can take control of the situation however you please. And I think that's important.
I want to throw a question out to the group. So even to your point, Deleon, and I, so most of my life has been educating children, but I'm gonna be honest, and me and good friends have this conversation all the time. Do we have to be disruptors with a social construct that really is about power, right? So are we still in a society where, how can I ask this question? I think we're constantly feeling in a white supremacist patriarch. I just learned this word, patriarchy. Eric, is white supremacist patriarchy, where we're dealing with capitalism. It's capitalism, white supremacists, and patriarchy. So those who have power and money pressing their power and beliefs and ideas on marginalized communities, even with educating our children about how to respond. How do we push up toward those forces that still try to marginalize us and make us feel small or less than? Okay, I'm gonna stop there. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Because
say it one more time.
Yeah. So when George Floyd happened, right, we saw the people take the streets. Mm-hmm. And we started to disrupt, right? We started to, in all different type of ways, disrupt, bring light to things that have been happening to us for years. I think we're beginning to see, even in the DEI space, or corporations are now bringing on individuals into their corporations to create the conditions where we're having these conversations. But what's the next level though? So now that we're being educated, we're bringing a sense of self-awareness, because a lot of it is implicit bias, right? A lot of it is stereotypes. And you said earlier, Tamika, that kind of got me. So even how the brothers talk to the sisters. So it is not all in that space. Sometimes men can say things that are microaggressive toward women as well. So bringing that to light. Or do we as a community have to continue to disrupt? And what does disrupt mean? Is disrupt aggressive, or still, are we still having to have, you said conversations, but okay, I'm gonna pause. I lost my thought. Daggone it.
I have a quick answer. Like, honestly, I don't think it's a one size fits all solution. And so like, whether I think there are, and there will be, unfortunately in the future, some things, some incidents that happen, or some things that come to light where a certain group or a certain community or generation will be like, we got to disrupt. And that might be the best answer. But then in other spaces and with other groups, depending on the group, depending on kind of how they best operate, even all the way down, depending on the individual, because individuals, like, we're all made different. And so if if you know that you are more effective in a more active and direct way, then you need to find those issues where you can go and be a little bit more like aggressive and direct and disruptive, because those with those issues need. But then for those who like, you know, that's not my forte, I'm uncomfortable in that space, like, because there's legit, like, there's like a bunch of Black folks who's like, I don't want to you know, march, or like in 2020, like, that's not me, like, you know, I'm good, I don't think I want to walk. And then there's others like, no, we need to be out there on the street. And then there's others like, I'll be there, but I'll be passing out water. And so it's like, we need to have conversations so that we can be self-reflective in our own communities, and so we can, like, honestly, so our young people and then even us can keep learning and growing, like, where do I best fit? Where do my gifts best, you know, support the cause and you know, disrupt stuff, you know, whether it's a little bit at a time, or we like about to, you know, blow ish up one all at a time. So I think it's all necessary, but it's different contexts and it depends on what the issue is at the time.
I wanted to ask you this, and that's kind of a combination of what B said earlier. You know, they were not who we were in the past, but you know, we do need to have the conversations. But how do the conversations stick? How do they become tangible? How do we monitor those conversations to where they're, you know what I'm saying, they're going to be useful? And because I know, you know, I mean, sometimes it's going, there's nothing but chances being thrown around. But how does it operate? How do those conversations operate in, you know, in a larger strategy?
Because action plans, you know, like, you can't have a conversation without having an action plan coming out of that. But not just an action plan, like, do something. I think for me, I get sick and tired of, you know, people want to have conversation after conversation after conversation, but then they don't actually do anything out of the conversation. So then, you know, I mean, think about how many murders happened before George Floyd, and we get an uproar and come together and we have conversations and then they just go fade to black until the next shooting or the next killing. And then we have another conversation. Everybody's in uproar. We come together, we're going to have these conversations, and then it fades to black. And I think it really is about why, like, B, to your point earlier, why do these young people get so like, I'll do it my way? Because they've been a part of these conversations where nothing has happened. And how many times are you going to hit yourself? I mean, that's the definition of insanity, is what we keep doing to these kids. So we have to have the conversation, come out with an action plan, and at least come out with 3 things you're going to do. The issue is we come out with the full page of all these things we're going to do, and we don't do one of them. So maybe stick to 3, because 3 just seems like an easy number, and actually start going down the list and completing some action items so that these young people see not only are we talking about it, but we're actually moving forward and creating change.
And my thing with that is, create those action plans, stick to it, and don't let people invade and put a sticky note on it. And when I say that, you see these companies, I know somebody was talking about it, these companies, they create these positions, they all of our friends, and they involved, and then slowly but surely, as the next year comes, they back away. Then the next year come, they offer a little more. And then that 3rd or 4th year, that involvement that they had is bare minimum. They just wanted to stick their face in and say, hey, I'm trying to help a little bit because it's cute or it's something, you know what I mean? Y'all demanded us. Like you say, them action plans, and we got to stick to our guns and not let these people or companies come in and just put a little fingerprint in just so they can say, hey, we were involved, and then walk away as things get better. And you know what I mean? They got to stick with us for the ride too, the entire ride.
I was going to say, blink twice if this is what you're experiencing at your current places of employment.
I don't have a job, so I'm good.
So we'll have to go there. But, you know, again, are you guys at your current places, or, you know, what fields do you see that are doing good work around this topic and discussion? Have you been in some good conversations, workshop, action plans?
have, man. And I you know, the hardest, I think the thing I've seen hardest to do with any group of individuals to change a mindset, right? I mean, you can change strategy, you can change rules, expectations, policies, but to change somebody's mindset is hard, right? Because you have to really, you really got to hit at the core of a person to say, you know what, I don't think Black people are ignorant. You know, there has to be some deep, and a lot of it is inherited, right? Like my great grandmama thought that way about Black people, and I just heard them talk about it. They became my beliefs, and now that's how I live my life. I think there's a lot of work and the conversations that are happening, particularly in the education space. But when I read discipline referrals, and I read hundreds of them, and you can see implicit bias and racism, and you can see all this ugliness live in the written referrals, you go, okay, we got a lot of work to do. I can put a stop sign up to say don't do it, but people still gonna run that light, you know. And so I think we have a lot of work to do. And I think DeLeon, you articulated what I was thinking, and a lot of the conversations that I have been in since George Floyd is this a movement or a moment, right? So people were like, man, we all excited, people are engaged. Will we see it fade away? Will it really have lasting change? And so, you know, beefing up how we respond to it is going to be one thing, but how do you change the minds of individuals who still think less than, you know, men who think less than of women, you know? I mean, that's a whole nother opportunity. I'm not going to say a problem, say an opportunity.
And then
Trust.
because of those, because it takes a long time and much more work to change the mindset of someone. I think that's why, like, kind of, what is it, after we do put plans in place and we actually take action, a lot of times some of our action plans might not work, or it might not do as much as we want it to. And we like, you know, this is our goal right here for this, you know, for this, but then we ended up achieving this much, or we end up getting another, you know, I don't know, challenge or barrier for some reason. Like, that's what I see that happening. Like, so I'll speak for IUPUI, like years ago, like no more than like 10 years ago, there was no multicultural center. And our students, our Black students, they petitioned for a Black culture center. They were taught how to, you know, take action, what you need to do, how to do it right. And then they did what they did. They were ignored. And so, and then I wasn't there at the time. So I know they took action I know they protested, I believe a little bit. They did a lot to make it happen. And then at the end, they did not get a Black culture center. They got a multicultural center. And to them, it was like halfway, like a success, but low-key that was a slap in the face, because that's not what we wanted. We wanted something for us, and they kind of ignored that. But then they kind of tried to place a Band-Aid over it. And our multicultural center is a blessing now, but then that's not what that group wanted. So how do you help that group of students who spent more than like a year of their collegiate experience fighting and taking time out of their full schedule to make something happen for themselves and for the future of their institution, and they get a no? And so I think that's where mental health comes into place. And it sucks to say, like, we got to help our young, and even like everybody, no matter how old you are, we got to help each other to cope, and to deal when you do get a no, or to deal when somebody refuses to change, when somebody refuses to change their perspective, because sometimes, unfortunately, it might not happen, or you might not see the change happen. It might happen after you leave here. It might happen in another 50 years. So like, how do you stay strong in yourself and who you are, even when you keep getting a no? And that's when it's like, it don't matter what they do. It don't matter what they say, how they feel. It don't matter no matter what you face, you have to make sure you stay strong. You got to make sure you know you got a place, you belong, you're here. You got to make sure you believe that none of what they say is true.
But
And
see, that's
I think that's when it takes like legit true mental health, intention, counseling, real therapy and counseling, and just our community supporting each other and recognizing that this is just hard to deal with. That although it's a microaggression, it's hard to deal with it. So recognize it and then be there and be like, I got you. You know, it's hard for me too. I got you. So we got to be there emotionally, plus like, you know, taking that action at the same time and just keep going.
But see, that's the hard part for me. We keep allowing people to slap band-aids on things. Like if we're fighting for a center for us, and then you come with a multicultural, nothing against nobody else, but we want something for us that represent us, and then you come and slap a band-aid and we just supposed to walk away like that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? And I've heard that from people like, why do we keep allowing band-aids to be slapped on problems that are not fixed? A band-aid doesn't heal the wound. It just covers it up for the time being.
And
Honestly, I think
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I think honestly, those are the conversations we have with our students, and I still have to this day, and it sucks for me to say honestly, we can't change it right now. Like there's like and like to that particular instance, or like we wanted to do this program, but they not letting us, and they like, well, we not gonna stand for it. I'm like, there's like, unless I'm gonna lose my job, unless, you know, you're gonna not have a degree, unless you're gonna choose not to go here anymore and go somewhere that does give you the yes. Unless we wait till we get somebody who does share your values in that decision-making position, until that happens, then how can we keep fighting for what we want, but deal when we honestly, well, and this is, I don't know, it sounds probably bad, but like when I can't do anything about it. And that sucks for me in my position when I have to talk to my students like, man, like, I know it sucks, but it's cool because we got this over here. So I know that's why I love my position, because I honestly, so although I'm DEI, I don't like do social justice things, and I don't like fight for I don't deal with issues that impacts, I guess, like diversity. I'm there to create programming to make our students feel like to give the support in spite of. There's other people that's charged with, you know, handling the issues. I don't know how to do all that. And so I'm over here, I'm like, okay, although that's happening, and until this institution until these things are better, then I'm going to create this over here, make this a better place for you while you're here. In the meantime, I don't know.
I like what Miss Holiday put in the chat. She said, we live in a world of instantaneousness. It's important we think long-term when expecting results to curb the disappointment. I like that. I mean, it makes you think about, I mean, let's be real, we've all faced disappointment. And faith is a big part of who I am and what I've been about in my life. For majority of the disappointment that I faced, God always came through with something else.
Mm-hmm.
And when one door was shut, plenty of other doors opened up. And so I think too, realizing the impact of, I love the curb the disappointment, but the future, whatever futuristic. There's a lot of things that they might be fighting for now, and programs that might be fighting for now that don't come to fruition right now, but in the years to come, those programs might come to light because, oh, you just said it. The right educator came in, the right president, the right person that's over that comes in, and it's like, why don't we have this program? Now all of a sudden, you pull up this one pager and, oh, you know what? The student from 2022 came up with this idea, but it wasn't the right time. But now it is. And so I think it's really being able to put things into framework. I mean, where we are, we come up with all these different things. And one thing I was gonna say earlier is it's not just about the adults sitting in the room, like Dillian, where you are, it's the student coming to you. And even as we get into our individual communities, it's gotta be about the kids in our community stepping up and being at the table with, like I don't want to do programs for our kids. I want our kids to tell me. So I will go outside, I will sit with them. I don't care what they like, wherever they are, I will go and sit outside. Like, okay, like, how was school today? What do y'all want to be when you grow up? What can we do here? What kind of programs do you want? What time do you wake up? What type of things can we do during the summer? Like, I want to know what y'all want, because I can come up with a whole bunch of ideas. But if I come up with the ideas and these kids don't want to do it, then I A, wasted my time, but B, it's like when you're talking about changing mindset, they got to trust you. If they don't trust you and trust that you have their best interest in mind, these jokers aren't showing up. Put on a program if you want to, but they're not going to be there.
That's real. And something that's been coming to mind lately is I'm very much so into the Matrix. But I say that in, but if you consider the algorithm and you consider the basics for the new Matrix, they were talking about the Matrix 20 years ago, like I said, 2000, different system. We want to get to the kids, but we're not acknowledging the system of how they're being influenced, which in a sense, again, is a larger microaggressive tactic for control. Because and I say that because, again, the instantaneousness, that's a great way to describe it. I see these kids eating Takis and on their phone, licking the red off of that Taki chip or the blue off of that bad boy. And then on their phone, head cracking, I'm just like, my mind, I'm taking as a PE coach. So that kid gonna have osteoporosis or something like that in the neck, on top of a lower, a large intestine infection, diabetes. But I think about it, but somebody gets paid, not really thinking about this person's health, not even thinking about what's influenced this child. Again, this aggressive marketing, this aggressive tactics, and then again, I say that, but I grew up, you watch your cartoons on Saturday morning, got your little show after school, you played in a sport, you practiced, you learn how to be civil, the golden rule, you really tussle with that. You knew heaven and hell, things like that. No. These kids got all this stuff, being thrown at them at the same time and at their choosing and at their choice. So they're equating that to being adulthood. I'm telling you this, guys, because, I've heard, again, some kids hurl racial epithets towards one another and doing it in a joking way. Black kid to black kid, and but it's just like they're not tied to it. And I don't know, again, I'm an 83 baby, man. I still would, you would have thought Martin Luther King was still alive when I was born. For the simple fact that we had a big old picture on the wall and we had a candle. I didn't know Dr. King was dead when I was 3 or 4 years old. Malcolm X, all these people, they really mattered to me. None of that stuff has mattered. That's, it's important. Like I said, it's scary to be honest with you. Most of the times, guys, we go off of our list of questions. This has been a very fruitful conversation to the point where I didn't realize just how much it was going to carry itself. But I almost want to kind of pull a question because we are, it's about 8:14, 8:15. So we got about 15 minutes before y'all go head home, have your ice cream, wine, whatever you choose to do. or tea, or have your tea. Go get your tea from Tease Me. But I'm curious, and if there's any detail or any stories you guys have, how you've been personally affected by microaggressions. How did you handle it? Spill that. Yeah, I want the tea now before we go. Yeah, bro. B, Swift. I know everybody think they own you because you on the radio.
Man, stop. Nah, I mean, I think for me, I've seen it before. Of course, like, bro, I tell people I got a collection of cars. I like cars. One of my favorite cars that I have is an '86 Monte Carlo. Um, and I was out on a certain side of town once, and I was pulled over. And this car, loud music, big rims, flashy paint. And the officer that pulled me over wasn't one of us. And the first thing he said to it out of his mouth was, "Where the guns and drugs?" Huh? What? You know what I mean? And I looked at him like crazy. And piece of me I could go there. I got license. I got registrations. I want you to search my car. You please call the dogs. Like, you know what I mean? I like that for a reason. Because I feel like you're messing with me because of who I am. But at that moment, I just ignored it. Like, I laughed it off. I told him they at home. Go get a search warrant. You can go find them. Like, because it took everything in me not to act out, because everything in me wanted to act out. You know what I mean? And that's just one of many occasions that I've been hit with that, whether it's because I got a chain on and you get a slick remark, you know what I mean, about your chain and gold and jewelry. Like, I see it a lot. And for me, just because of where I am in life, and I think Dr. B said it earlier, I have a motto of, I am not here to change opinions. I am not an opinion. It's just not my job. I can't. So for me, I just let a lot of it roll off and try not to give the energy that I probably could, because it's probably going to end me somewhere that I don't really want to spend the night or weekend at. So I just kind of let it go and laugh and move on. But that's just me.
I would say quite a bit, actually. I have typically been the Black male leader who serves primarily white women teachers, right? And the young people who I see most come to my office are Black males. And so, I have found myself oftentimes being much more civil in reflection. Probably should have been more vocal about the things said, done toward children of color. But then I found myself in that space where, and I've had a mentor to say, be a disruptor, but don't get killed in the process. And when he was saying kill, what he was saying was maintain your job, maintain your position of influence, but still challenge the status quo, challenge statements that are offensive. I have teachers say things like, what do you expect from them? I mean, they live in poverty. I was born in poverty, right? And so I have to correct that behavior. But I have to be very intentional about when, where, and how, because I've often dealt with the victim. Now you're a victim because I called you on the statement that you made. Now I'm the aggressive Black man who is, so it's such a delicate space, particularly in education. And I've dealt with it quite a bit, and so, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I could write a book.
And you should, doctor. I mean, you take us right.
Coming next, coming soon.
Stop right there and at the cliff. Oh my goodness, man! Because essentially, because what I wanted to know, and I think everybody has done this, what is the face that you make? And I want to jump back. I want to hear your experience too. But first, I want to see what is the face that you make when somebody hits you one of these microaggressions, and you can't say what the, but the only thing you can do. I want to see your ever so subtle face, not to, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Because it takes me back. What's that? We wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes, all while we wear the mask. And it's interesting because that's a whole nother conversation. And to me, I think we had that conversation on code switching and the mental know, the mental issues that can come with that. But you know, what has been your experience over, you know, it could be IUP or I'm sorry, wherever. What has been your experience? I know you've had a story.
Um, so honestly, like because of I don't know, just for one, I've always since I was an undergrad, I knew I wanted to work and serve Black and brown students. And so I've only worked in Black and brown spaces, and I've been blessed to work in Black and brown spaces for the most part. So that's been most of my IUPUI experience. And I've heard of a lot of incidents with my, staff and students because they're at a predominantly white institution. But I haven't had to deal with that. And I'm from Gary, all Black school. And even in undergrad, like it was predominantly white institution, but I literally stayed around like all the Black folks. I lived in a Black dorm. Everyone on my floor was Black. And so other than my own internal issue with dealing with being a strong woman in a predominantly male space, that's been the most that I've had to like conquer and kind of find my confidence in. And yeah, like I've had, I don't even know if I can call it microaggression. Probably, I don't know, probably someone should talk to me and help me identify it too. So, but it was more so like people responding to me as like the sweet little church girl, like, and not allowing me in like other spaces. And so, yeah, but when it came to like racial stuff, I haven't had to deal with that, which honestly, I think helps me to be able to kind of be open to be an educator, like to our like young white students. Yeah. And so it's been an interesting, I had like a different journey a little bit.
Yeah, my journey really has, obviously being a professional athlete, everybody feels like they own you. And I just remember toward the end of my career when I started wearing my natural hair, one of the first media days that we had, I had my hair down and I think I had it in some twists. And I remember one of the reporters coming up to me and was like, "Oh, so that's how you wearing your hair this year?" And I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, I don't like it." And I think for us, we feel like, oh, our hair has to be straight or we have to do this. Like there's a right way, when you're out and about that you have to wear your hair because this is the professional look. That's what it used to be, right? Now you're starting to see a lot more women wear furs and wear braids and wear just be. And I love it. It's just hard to do. But I remember in that space, like just really being traumatized in a sense. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, should I go and get my hair done? Should I go put weave back in? Should I, and it took a lot of self-talk as far as like, you are beautiful the way you are, however you choose to wear your hair, however you choose to walk in this space. You are not defined by what your hair looks like, by the way you talk, by what you choose to wear that day. Like you are not defined by that. But in that moment, I was so like, maybe I should not do media day and I should go get my hair done and just skip it. But I look at that now as being a defining moment for me and just personal growth of not being, not to say that I've been consumed with other people and what other people think, but in that moment, really being like, okay, this is who I am. But with that, I know we have 6 minutes left and I am very respectful of everybody's time. So let's do this. Microaggression is the conversation. I think one of the big things we talked about a little bit is change. Like, how do we create change? So I'd like real quick, let's go around the horn. Maybe one intentional thing that you are going to focus on moving forward that you can focus on. And I'm going to say this, May 13th is Friday the 13th today. So something that you're going to do in the next couple of weeks that will be intentional that you can push it down the road That's why I want a short time frame, something you are going to intentionally do as we're talking about the issue of microaggression specific to your space where you are. What is something that you can do? Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in. It'll be so for me, God loves me. He loves us all, but I'm grateful to be speaking nationally quite a bit over the next 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to make a commitment to incorporating this language in all my presentations so I can raise awareness, right? So I think even as we think about emotional intelligence, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship management, and self-management are the 4 domains in emotional intelligence, which is the core of mental health. So when we bring self-awareness and understanding how microaggressions impact us and make us feel, also social awareness, identifying the emotions in others when we say something that offends them, then we can begin to address it at a whole nother level. So I'll make that commitment.
Something that I'm gonna do, which I've been thinking on it, but I haven't like done much. And this is a push, is to focus on kind of like more training to also kind of a little bit piggyback on Dr. Brian, like, and to learn. Well, for me, it was like to learn more of how I can speak to my students about topics like this and to support them and how they can respond and how they can deal with the reality of certain spaces. And one thing, so I didn't know what SEL meant, and so I Googled it. And so social emotional learning, I haven't heard that term yet, and so that's something that I definitely want to learn more about and see how I can incorporate that into kind of like my programming space with our students, because it seems like, yeah, that just that emotional like intelligence piece is missing in a lot of our conversations, especially when you're talking about like, you know, the disparities and everything that our culture deals with.
I think for me, it's just making sure people around me are super educated and understand some of the things they're saying. Again, because I'm a victim, I'm a user, not understanding the things that I'm saying, whether I'm joking, talking to friends, fall into that category. So for me, it's making sure that my homeboys or homegirls or whoever I'm around understand the things we're saying and what space they fall in, and not just them. It's summertime, and I know I'm gonna be out at summer camps and talking to kids. So definitely making sure they understand it, even in a joking situation, that's not really a joke. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna start at home with my 6-year-old, making sure she knows, hey, you can't talk to your friends like this. You can't say certain things. You can't say certain things, and they shouldn't say certain things. So if you see this, hear this, make sure you correct, and these are the reasons why. So that's what it is with me.
I think for me, Eric, I'll let you finish it, but I think for me, it's really doing what I'm doing. You know, like I want to have more conversations with the kids. And so really, like we will be putting together some programs and different things. I might be leaning in on some of you guys to come through just because those kids in that specific area, to me right now, they got my heart. And I want to figure out how to create change and for them to see what we see as far as who they are, what they are. They are kings and queens, and I want them to really feel that and believe it.
Well, to be honest with you guys, and it's all good and positive, but I think I'm going to go ahead and try to organize a microaggressive slap contest, just to get that aggression out.
Wow.
Make it
And
like,
it's 8:30. Thank you guys.
no, but you see these slap contests, but it could work. Anywho, no. Again, we have to innovate. We have to create. find different ways so we can, see, it sounds as corny as cliche as it sounds. Tomorrow I'm trying to get some kids over to an ultimate Frisbee clinic, you know, so actually it's a professional women's team, Indianapolis Reds, shout out to them. Never knew. And that's where we're at. We're a lot of we're the place of never news. And so nobody really has the right answer, but we have to lead with our hearts. We have to lead with empathy. And so that we can start to develop that muscle for how we feel towards one another. And so I'll continue to keep doing what I'm doing with, you know, addressing spoken word. Now, come on in here, brother, because we out here in the community. This is my fellow Green Eye Bandit. But as we're closing now, do you believe microaggressions are real?
Yeah.
Well, you heard it from the community. We're live and in person. Keep doing what you're doing as long as it's the right thing. I almost feel like Reverend. Oh God. What's the action? The Action National Action Network? No, this is Tease Me. And we've had a great conversation tonight. I feel like we could have went on to about 9:30, 10, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna close it out, and we're gonna thank everybody who joined us this evening online and sharing your input. And just, we got people who coming to learn and be engaged, and so we really appreciate that. I would love to, like I said, keep doing what we're doing as long as we're inspiring and encouraging our community to be a part of the conversation. So come back next month, tell a friend, tell another friend, tell them to their face. Don't say nothing behind their back. That's microaggressive. That's what it says. Did you guys have fun tonight in the midst of it?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you guys. Thank y'all for coming on. Next conversation, June 10th, Friday, June 10th. Tune in second Friday every single month. We will see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you,
God bless
Veronica.
y'all. Have a great week.
Everybody.